Welcome to Bridging the Gap to Connections, the talk show, where we begin by sharing your stories and spotlighting your shine. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Bridging the Gap to Connections. This is Darla Williams here, and today I have Courtney Colleen. Courtney is with Compass Rose Consultants. We are going to dive into some discovery on business development and learning more about boundaries to insights on neurodivergence in business. We have such a dichotomy of different discussions and different things coming together and bringing solutions to those who are literally struggling in business. And I'm really excited to see how this episode really unfolds with Courtney today. So, Courtney, thank you for coming on the episode of Bridging the Gap to Connections.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here.
So, a little bit, what I'd love to know, and so would the audience, is a little bit about you. Who is Courtney?
That's a great question. Courtney is a Christian, a mother, a business leader, a founder of an organization with the mission to help entrepreneurs gain access to the mentorship that they need to overcome the overwhelm of entrepreneurship and to really start to build the business that they envision. So I'm a passionate person that wants to be heart led and make sure that everything in our approach always ensures brain friendly solutions and value centered alignment. So it's important to me. I really care that people are doing things that align with their values and that doesn't step out. And that's like who I am right at the middle, right at the core, heart centered.
That is absolutely beautiful. I love the fact that you put in there that you are heart centered, but also who wouldn't be if you have the love of the Lord?
Yeah.
Having the love of the Lord at your core allows you to open space to have the love for others. Love is the master key to all things. That is something that I say all the time. Everything begins and ends within. And when we actually put that focus and understanding that love is the first part, the master key, the master's key to all things, love is the master's key. So, that's such
Hmm.
a beautiful thing that you do. What I want to know
Well,
is, go ahead.
I was just gonna say what we're talking about there too is that we're starting with the individual, right? And where you're aligned, what are you looking at? What is your focus? And for me, at the end of the day, you're right. It's the master key. When God is above all else and we are called to love one another, when you take care of heart, if you see people first as people and then as business leaders and then as the consumers and then as the internal consumers who are your people that are actually building the business from the ground up, that are doing the work, I mean, when you meet them where they are as humans first, everything else falls into place. Everything else like there will not be obstacles that are insurmountable. They're just partnerships and paths to overcoming it together.
Exactly. Now, I want to ask a little bit. We were talking, with the introduction, I was sharing that we're going to talk about boundaries to insight on neurodivergence in business. First off, how in the world did you even get into that arena? I mean, what a place to go to. I mean, it is so needed, and it's such an opportunity to really help people overall to expand. So I'm excited to learn more about you and how you got into that world.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I began becoming interested in psychology when I was very young. I studied on my own in high school. When I went into college, I ended up following that path and earning my degree in psychology. I worked at the Mental Health Center of Denver for over 5 years. I spent like the first decade of my professional life using psychology from every aspect, asking questions, getting involved. Even in senior living, I was asking questions, learning their stories, understanding the world, and really putting together this, what is it called when all of it's like a web of thoughts come together and you just gain clarity. It it was really powerful to me because at some point I realized that not everybody does that. And it made me really reflective on myself. And as I started having children, I started realizing that not only were they the ultimate psychology project, right? How awesome can I help your brain grow? How high can I make your IQ just by doing the things that are correlated with higher IQs so you can be successful in life? I started discovering that they thought differently too. And it brought me into areas of the community where people who are neurologically different tend to come together. So I brought my eldest into robotics, and it was filled with all these beautiful, strange people. They were creative, they were engineering minded, they were mathematically minded, they definitely had behaviors that were different, and it made me dig down. And my family members on my husband's side, most of them have ADHD or autism. Some are ADHD, which is the combination of those things that does not is not the blending of those things. Let's be very clear about that. It is something different, ADHD. And I started gaining these insights from these mothers, from these family members, from these colleagues, and I took a position of power in on the board of directors for the robotics organization with this mission to empower kids from low access areas to be able to learn robotics, to have access to high quality STEAM education, because I believe that with the right education on the front end that really serves you the way your own brain already works, it could launch you into success for life. And all too often, we have gifted kids in the gifted system that also have this duality. They also have ADHD, but they're brilliantly minded. And our school systems don't always meet them where they are. They call that twice exceptional. When you look at the charts of success in high school, if you are neurotypical or what most people would call average, you have it goes up a little and it kind of plateaus. If you are gifted, it skyrockets and then it kind of curves. And if you are twice exceptional, you would think it would be somewhere between those two. But instead, what happens is you have a sharp up and then a plateau way below average. And it's because at first you are such a good learner, especially in the ways that you are, that you do really well because you can absorb, you are gifted. But those obstacles become harder to mask. It's harder for them to fake it, to get through. For example, a kid that is highly intelligent but maybe dyslexic, they struggle to read the words, but they can assume and amass massive amounts of data in their mind. So they learn it by reading it out loud, other people, teachers saying it out loud for a long time early on. You're getting these data points from other places, right? Auditorily, visually, kinesthetically, and they're memorizing everything, whereas the other kids are not. They're reading it, they're taking it in that way. And later, when they're no longer doing kinesthetic education or they're no longer saying everything, you're expected to read on your own. You're supposed to just ask questions if you're confused. Those kids become high demand. They have a lot of questions. Maybe they took 2 or 3 hours to read something that takes other kids half an hour. They're overwhelmed and overworked. They're exhausted because they're now working for school 12, 13, 14 hours a day instead of the 8 a day plus an hour for homework. So now they're burning out. So now we're plateauing. And they could be absorbing a lot more data. They could be learning really well, but they're not because of the system we have them in. The more I talked to parents when I was in the position of leadership, the more I started to hear how this really was applicable. This wasn't just a concept that I learned about in college anymore. This was real life in place, in action. My own child was becoming more and more a part of it. What I saw was First of all, again, to speak on dyslexics, man, they are amazing engineers. They turn things around in their mind in 3D in a way that other individuals typically cannot. Their capacity is so high. And once we started to transform the business, the nonprofit, to allow them to think and work that the way that worked best for them, they became our star leaders. These kids that were making C's and D's and sometimes even failing classes in school were the best engineers. And they became great leaders. And they suddenly had these communities of kids that were all different, not all different in the same way. Oftentimes it was challenging because they were all super neurodivergent in very different ways. But they were able to be highly successful, and all the other kids understood what it was like to have challenges and to feel successful, and they found their tribe. And you'll hear me say that all the time. Find your tribe, especially if you're neurodivergent. Anybody, but especially if you're neurodivergent, find your tribe. So going from that, I discovered the problems that were on the back end in leadership. So I started studying. I threw myself into the research. I threw myself into continuing education courses. I threw myself into bringing in a protege, someone that I could train on the things that I was doing for the organization. We grew exponentially. We went from a little teeny tiny club of 5 families that had a board of 2 members, which is not legally enough. So we had to either grow the board or we need to collapse the organization. And it was just me and one other guy, and we were like, why don't we just shoot for the stars? Why don't we just go like all in? What could happen? Through that bravery, through that partnership, we developed within 18 months a nonprofit organization that had an impact of tens of thousands of kids across the entire state of Louisiana. We were no longer serving a family of or 5 families. We were now serving over 50 kids in our after school program that was year round. We were serving hundreds of children during our summer sessions that were summer camps. And we were providing educational access to over 7 parishes. That's counties in other states. Slipped my mind for a moment. And we were even in the juvenile detention center helping give kids an educational path for high-paying jobs so that when they got out, they were no longer driven right back to the streets and the kind of things that got them in trouble to begin with. They now had an access, an avenue for successful futures. And ultimately, we were supporting the economic growth of both our local region, but also our entire state. And that's the kind of exponential impact I want to make in the world. And we did it all by starting with who are these people? What do we care about? What do they care about? How do we fulfill the mission to give access to all these low access kids? And it was remarkable. And somewhere along the line I realized I wasn't just, right, this small talk about myself. It wasn't just this person that went to school and did the work and studied hard and kept waiting to be seen. I was the person that was out there driving change, speaking up, amplifying people's voices, and finding and focusing on solutions. We talked about God earlier, and that's something that I've been very hyper fixated on myself. And it's that renewing of your mind, keeping what is good and righteous at the top of mind and focusing on that, not being worried about yesterday. It's not to say you don't learn from yesterday. Absolutely. Look at it, review, and then revise, edit, take new steps. That's the part that most people never get to. That's usually the part of, am I staying where I am or am I growing? So that was my path forward that led me into my business. It was very personal at first, and it became so communal that I would never look back. I just want to share that with others and help people find their passion to go do the thing, whatever the thing is.
I love what you're saying there. And I love the fact that I gave you that opportunity to really unpack it because what you're doing is such a it's it's large. It's larger than life. You know, what you're doing is larger than life. And obviously, your faith is what is carrying you through to be able to meet the deadlines, the responsibilities, the different things in regards. But finding those, you've built a community. That is what I see in what you're talking about is you've built a community. And what you're telling other people when you say, go find your tribe, go find your community, find those who are going to recognize you and see you and understand you for who you are. You
Yes.
have someone in the world that is going to hear you, see you, and understand you. One of the biggest things about bridging the gap to connections is making sure that people's message, what they're doing and why they're doing it, is being heard, seen, and understood. That's why I created this space for people like Courtney and others in the world to actually get their message out into the world. This is absolutely extraordinary. I am so glad that our paths have connected, that we do have connection. You know, with the fact that we are coming together, there are so many different things that we can expound on, you know, and look into and find that bridge, you know, like it is bridging the gap. You know, that's what we're all trying to do anyways, right? So with
Hmm.
that, my question for you now, with everything you just unpacked, you're talking about building a space where people can find boundaries to the insights in their business. So when you say that, when we unpack that, what does that really look like for someone who's in the midst of their chaos trying to find a solution when they don't know where to make the ends meet?
Hmm. There are a lot of pieces of that that are interconnected. Before you can have boundaries, you must know where you stand. You must know where your values are, what that really means. And again, that's an introspective look. And the work has to be done. You have to deep dive to really get there. Once you understand what your values are, you have to be able to stand on that. Knowing your values and then knowing your capacity. So again, we're looking inward. We're not looking outwards. Boundaries are not about controlling the people or things around you. Boundaries is about what you will do and what your capacity is and understanding where that line is so that you can have healthy margins. And I can't say that enough. Healthy margins. When we take the time to look inward and identify those pieces, we can find what makes us tired and what makes us energized. And we have to decide what we're willing to do to sacrifice. And does it require sacrifice? I think with all jobs I've ever had, there are aspects of the job that I don't love, that don't get me impassioned. I can't always hand that off. With solopreneurs or emerging entrepreneurs, people who have started a business and either have never done this before or they're a small business that's pivoting to become a large business, there's a lot of gaps and a lot of times don't know what it is and they're overextending thinking I've got to do it all. I've got to figure all this out. And they spend more time thinking about the problem than they do the solution. As you said, well, I don't know the solution. How do I figure out the solution? Well, first, we look inward. Do we know the solution and we're just not comfortable with where that answer takes us? Because that's real. Is it that we know a solution, but man, it would take a lot of risk to get there? Maybe we're not comfortable with that? That's one that I would challenge. Okay, comfort. Do we need to be comfortable? Is comfort important? What about vulnerability? Have you ever achieved anything being brave, getting great reward without being vulnerable? Even love, right? Oh, I was heartbroken. Why? Because I had the bravery to love. Okay, well, what did that take? Vulnerability? Okay, all right. So maybe that's a path worth pursuing. To bridge that gap, we need to question, is comfort really the goal? Because right now we're creating a problem here. right? But we need to understand that we shouldn't be focused on the problem. We should be focused on the solution. What else? What else? So then I would direct you to your tribe, the council of many, not just anyone. Find your tribe, like you said, the ones that see you, that know you, that understand you, that really hear you. Go to them. Go to the ones that are already successful. We need mentors in this space. What do the mentors say? We're not focused on the problem. We're not worried about the problem. We're going, where is the solution? When you shift your mind and you renew it to this place of there is a solution, what is it? There's probably more than one solution. And what's really standing in your way? Is it the problem and the solution, or is it you? And that that is a key piece.
I
One of
love
the
that.
biggest
I
things that I do.
love what you just said there. Is it really, when you're looking at the solution, you know what? There's always an answer. Always. It's
Yeah.
whether or not you're willing to do the things that you need to do, or are you still looking at the reasons as being your excuses from getting to where you're going? And how do you start to
Hmm.
disintegrate those pieces that keep you in the lack? I love what you just said there.
Right.
And really, truly, with that, I want to ask you, how can people find you? Because really, you have some major solutions, and I think people need to be able to find you. Can they locate you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Compass Rose Consultants is represented on Alignable, which for all those that are trying to start a business or trying to do business to business sales, anything like that, it's over 2 million business leaders on this platform, alignable.com. Just look up Compass Rose Consultants. You can even look up Courtney Killeen, that's spelled Courtney, last name Killeen. I'm also on LinkedIn as well as Facebook. Please feel free to like, follow, and share what we've got on there.
And I know that we're running into the end of the hour. So, what I want to ask you is what is something that you would like to leave with others so that they know more about you and what you do?
What I do is showing up for my clients. When you work with me, you basically hire a team of consultants, like bringing on a board of directors or a C-suite level of mentors, of people who are here to help guide you, to help you strategically plan, for you to overcome those obstacles. Sometimes it's a matter of what questions should I be asking? Well, we're your think tank. We're the place that you can soundboard ideas, and we're the people who are going to help you go out and find the resources that you need to position yourself for scalability and sustainability.
This has been an absolutely brilliant episode on the show today, and I appreciate you and your time, Courtney. And everybody out there, make sure that you watch, like, subscribe, find a way to get connected with Courtney through me. If you go into the details and click on hers and go book an appointment with her just to do a one-on-one to get to know her a little bit more. If there is anything in your world that you're looking to create the boundaries for, finding the insights to, looking to create those strategies and find the way to be the solution in your business, make sure you reach out. Until next time, this is Darla Williams. I'm bridging the gap to connections. Bye for now.
Bye.